What ought it be, Michael?
Well, Scott, I talked to Chris Paul. We're working on this project together about his life, not this season, his life. And he sort of let me in on the secret a few days in advance that he was probably going to be traded to the Suns. And even as excited as he was to be playing with Booker and be playing for Monty Williams and this cast of characters that he liked from afar, I'm not going to sit here and tell you they thought they could get anywhere near this far. They thought they could be good. They knew they were going to make the playoffs. They knew they were going to make the playoffs. That playoff drought thing of 11 years was over. But to think that they were just exuding confidence that they were going to get to the NBA Finals, anybody who says that now is insane. I mean, you heard Monty just talk about how, normally you get to the first round and figure out how you're going to get to the second round. If you get to the second round, you figure out how you're going to, and it's piecemeal. This wasn't piecemeal. This was meteoric. I mean, I did talk to Chris Paul midway through the season, and he said, you know what? We could be really good. And by, in stages, they knew they could be really good to great, somewhere in there, and they were going to pursue that. So this, to me, and I don't know that they'll feel this way for weeks. It's going to take time, like they both said. To me, this is an overwhelming successful season. The Phoenix Suns haven't been in the finals in almost 30 years.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And Chris Paul comes and he takes a group, this group, Ayton, who had never really been coached, not really, and he takes this group and he goes to the finals? Yeah. Seriously, this is like I'm not going to call it bad news bears, but you know what I mean? This is the kind of story you don't see in pro sports.
Well, a couple of things. Number one, I've been in the journalism profession for nearly 30 years, and when you talk about a guy that's going to be chronicling the life story of a guy like CP3, I can think of nobody more qualified than my brother right here, Mike Wilbon. So I just want to say that. The other thing that I want to say is this. I understand everything that Mike Wilbon just said about CP3 and the Phoenix Suns and how meteoric this season has been for them. But what is inescapable, Scott, is the profound sadness that so many of us feel for him because we've known him for so long. We know how dedicated and committed he is, how tirelessly he has worked throughout the years. And he's an acquired taste. He's not for everybody because his priority has always been about winning and doing it the right way. And he didn't care if he ruffled your feathers along the way because the bottom line was about getting the job done. And for 16 illustrious years as a quintessential point guard in this game, this is the closest he had ever been. You saw the great LeBron James tweet after game one down, 3 to go. After game two down, 2 to go. And You got this itch, sensing what you were seeing from Milwaukee, that the door was closing on them and that we would be sitting here or standing here celebrating CP3. And for 4 games later to be sitting here lamenting the fact that his team couldn't get it done, knowing he's 36 and that he was the best player on the court for the Phoenix Suns tonight because Booker didn't have it, Bridges wasn't ready, DeAndre Ayton looked absolutely petrified, Crowder didn't have it for the most part even though he had a decent game, and you weren't able to get the level of production from the pieces around you that you customarily was getting throughout this season. To be 36 and to have it in this way, it's hard to look at him and say, you know something, he'll be back. A matter of fact, the temptation is to say this was his chance. And that's the hard part about all of this. You know Giannis Antetokounmpo is more than worthy and deserving. Right. But you also know that CP3 was as well. And only one of them can walk home with the championship. And it wasn't CP3.
And that's why I always find myself, man, referring to the Roosevelt speech about the man in the arena who strives valiantly, who knows the great devotions, who errs while daring greatly, all of that certainly lands with me tonight because he was in the arena, and 6 games later, the Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis with a 50-point performance are the champions. Your time so appreciated.
Speak for Stephen A, because I know he did. We both used to do this. You wait till somebody's had a chance to think about it and let it soak in. And so many times I've had guys say relief. Relief was the first emotion, and I thought about that with Giannis, and I was there in the Toronto series. I wasn't in the bubble, but I was there for the Toronto series, and Tim is so right. Toronto, they stopped him, and by stopping him, they stopped them, the Bucks. And Giannis had to live with that. But one of the things I just admire about him is, and this is the bias of a kid from the Midwest, 79 miles down the road. He didn't feel the need to go to Miami or Los Angeles or Brooklyn or anywhere on the coast in a perceived bigger, more glamorous place. He said, I'm here. I'm right here. I'm right here with these cheeseheads. This is where I'm going to be. I'm going to re-sign here. I'm not going to wait for the money to become available in Miami or Dallas or anywhere else, New York, Madison Square Garden. I'm setting my roots down here. And he did it here. And I'm not going to pretend to know Giannis that well. I know him a little bit. But I loved when he did that. And he owned whatever shortcomings there might have been or perceived shortcomings, not winning. And he did it here. And it just, I think, to a segment of us, and you guys being East Coast guys, the gentleman to my right and both of you, you may not understand what that feels like here in the fly across states, right? But people here understand what that means. And there's a special relationship now with Giannis that they're going to credit him for forever, because he didn't pick up and leave and go assemble a big whatever in a big market. He did it here. And I think all of that had to be going through his mind when we saw him sit on that bench and tears come to his eyes.
I can appreciate Michael Wilbon's point. It's very astute, as always, no doubt. But I'm going to tell you what I think is the biggest thing we should peel away from what we've seen from the great, phenomenal performance he put forth tonight with 50 points, 14 rebounds, and 5 blocks. Just a sensational performance, Scott. The man never ran from adversity. That is the key to me. It's not, yes, you could say it's about staying in Milwaukee, and I'm not going to dispute that by any stretch of the imagination. But he didn't run from adversity. This is not a guy that lost in the Eastern Conference Finals 2 years ago to Toronto because he had a bad night. He had 4 bad consecutive games because Kawhi Leonard stood up in the locker room after going down 0-2 and told Coach Nick Nurse, I'm guarding Giannis. And he picked him up past half court and prevented him from going downhill. And Giannis Antetokounmpo, devoid of a perimeter shot, devoid of stout shooting from the free throw line, seemed relatively helpless. We saw what happened to them in the bubble against Miami last year. This year, you've got people booing him, you've got people heckling him, you've got people teasing him about his game. No perimeter shot, clearly horrid from the free throw line. And he kept coming. He wouldn't stop. The ridicule, the vitriol, the humiliation, it didn't matter. One loss in a playoff game, going down in another playoff series, it didn't matter. He kept coming. And somehow, some way, you just got to a point where you said, excuse me, they can't stop him. Even though he's missing free throws, they can't stop him. Even though he doesn't have a jump shot, they can't stop him. And he kept coming. And then sure enough, as the games waned and the series waned, he started hitting more free throws. And then he ends it and he culminates it. In his final games, Giannis Antetokounmpo shot 89.5% from the free throw line.
He was Rick Barry.
17 of 19 from the free throw line. So we can look at the 16 for 24. You're big. They've got a width. They're thin at the front line. They can't stop you. You look like the big man in a small man contest going against this undersized Phoenix Suns. But where he really stole the show was that he demanded the ball, he constantly attacked, he knew he was going to get fouled, and he didn't care. And when you do something like that and you overcome that level of adversity, there's so much that so many of these players in the NBA can peel from what they saw.
Greek Freak is the MVP right now. How about that? And you know what? I've never given my name up before, but I'm giving it to him. He's the new Superman.
You're giving the new Superman nickname to the Greek Freak?
Yes, I am.
Who
yes,
can't hit a three-pointer yet? Shaq, can he at least hit a jump shot first?
I didn't hit no three-pointer either, but he's dominating, and that's what I like. You dominating in the paint, you taking it to the hole, you throwing it down, you ain't shooting no flip shots. He did something last night. I was like, you know what? This kid can play. So I denied myself as Superman, and I'm giving it to the Greek Freak.
Max Kellerman.
I love this so much.
Giannis? New Superman?
I love this so much. And Stephen A., great work out of you. You have to understand what this is about. Shaq is exactly right. Shaq was the one player in modern NBA history performing at an MVP caliber level and only scored in the paint, took it to the rack. That's how he got his points. See, free throw line, too. Can't do anything about that. But that's where he's, well, not taking jump shots and fadeaways, and like he had a little hook there, but it's all in the paint. He's taking it strong. Patrick Ewing with the fadeaway, and Hakeem with a jump shot, and David Robinson had a variety of ways to score. And even when you look at the little guys, the high flyers that we think of as ultra aggressive, Jordan and Kobe, they developed an outside game, and that's good. That's great. It makes them even better, right? KD can score smoothly from anywhere. Even LeBron shoots the three from certain spots very well in the deep three. Obviously, Steph. Show me an MVP caliber player since Shaq who only gets it in the paint. He only takes it to the rack. That's where the Greek Freak scores, and that's why Shaq is saying him. He's taking it strong every time. That guy can be Superman. I love it.
It makes total sense that Shaq would make that claim. You're right about that because Antetokounmpo is averaging 27 and 13 right now on 57% shooting. 11% from three-point range. 11, okay? And from the free throw shooting, he's not quite as bad as Shaq was, but he's at 68%. Here is the only thing, and I don't have a problem with Shaq's, proclamation or whatever, because it makes total sense. He's right. Here's the only thing that I would say to y'all. Shaq was unstoppable. He was a physical freak of nature. He was 350 pounds. He was the most dominant force of our lifetime outside of Wilt Chamberlain. This is what we've seen. The Greek Freak is something special. But because of his muscular but slim frame, even though he gets to the rack, dribbling the ball, creating his own path to the basket, the dominance that Shaq is speaking to is not something that has worked for the Greek Freak, nor do I think will work come playoff time. Now, he averaged 25, 9, and 6 against Boston in their 7-game series last year. But when it really, really counted, you could find a way to neutralize him because he couldn't shoot. Whereas with Shaq, there was no way to neutralize him because he was so massive.
You may be right. If the Greek Freak had a three-point shot, he'd be the best player in the game, including LeBron.
Yes,
I mean, if he could really shoot it. But that's the point. You just said Shaq was a physical freak. Freak is in Antetokounmpo's name. The Greek Freak. In other words, of all the freaks that we've seen.
But that's not the case come playoff time.
Joel Embiid, the freakishly great players, even if you don't think of them physically that way. Tim Duncan or even KG or someone like that. You think of LeBron. LeBron is a physical freak. All those things. But no one's whole offense or scoring offense is predicated in the paint since Shaq,
but don't
the Greek
convolute
Freak.
the issue. You can't teach 350. That's all I'm saying. You can't teach 350 come postseason time. That's all I'm saying. I'm not disagreeing with any other points.
But, okay,
I'm saying you can't teach 350. There's a lot of beef, bro.
Fair enough.
That's a lot of beef.
You know how people say the game has changed? It's not about the big man in the paint anymore. That's true.
In the postseason, it will be.
But it's still about the paint. You still must get to the painted area. If it's off the dribble, a post, whatever it is, you still got to do that to collapse the offense at times. It can't just all be three-pointers. That helps your three-point game. What I'm saying is this. What if the Greek Freak, who has a different way of getting to the paint than Shaq, obviously, what if the Greek Freak thrives in the playoffs? Are you ready then to call him Superman?
Well, then call me when it happens.
Okay. Good.
What's wrong with that? What's wrong with saying that he already averaged 25, 9, and 6 in the playoffs? That's not shabby. I'm simply saying that when it came time, it didn't matter what time of the game is. Last second, first second, 350 pounds is a problem. Now, with the Greek Freak, let's see as the game wanes, because of his inability to hit perimeter shots, if he'll be able to get to the basket with that level of ease in the postseason.
Who was the closer on the Shaq team, Stephen A? Who was the closer?
Excuse me?
Who was the closer on those great Shaq teams in LA?
Well, I'd say Kobe, but it's still like it's not like Shaq didn't get him there either.
I like Chris Middleton a whole lot, but he ain't Kobe Bryant. You can't if the Greek Freak goes off and gets bumped in the second round, you can't hold that against him.
All right, whatever. Let's move on because we got boxing to get to.
Yeah,
you keep
we
talking,
do,
we won't even get to
Stephen A.
that.